All right, gang, welcome back to Procreate. Now let's go ahead and finish this bad boy up. We're now going to go in and we're going to add one more layer, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to rename this the drawing layer. Okay. And again, in the complicated piece, you could have 30, 40, 50 layers, so good drawing habits, good layering habits, good naming habits make for good projects. All right, so with this, in the drawing layer, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go into our sketching set. Actually, let's go to the inking. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab our ink bleed pen. All right. Now, this is really trial and error. We're going to come back to our palette and I'm going to shrink this down now to the extreme. And now you want to start this off the rocket. So I'm going to go ahead and start off the rocket. I'm keeping minimal pressure on this. And now you'll see that I'm just drawing a very faint line across the middle of the rocket. Okay, what you don't want. Let me show you what you don't want. That. You do not want that, right? You want to add a little bit of interest so that you see where these panels come together and how they actually work. So around this portal, you're probably going to want to create a couple areas, and then you're going to want to create a panel line that kind of goes like this. This kind of texturing on here, folks, is crucial to pulling off the illusion that this thing is actually viable and working. So go ahead and do as many as you think you need to do. And now I'll show you a trick. Once you're done with this, you go up and you create the white color. And now zoom on in here. And now here's part of the trick. Same brush. Kind of follow that line with the white just like this. This is the difference between a rocket that looks pretty awesome and looks like you put some thought into it and a rocket that's just flat, boring, and super lame. Okay. And a little goes a long way. I'm not saying to highlight the hell out of it. Like right there, you see where we have that highlight coming through? That would make sense then that there would be a little white manipulative dot there. Right there. Right there. Cool. All right. And because we have the selection the way that we do, we're all good. Now, I got to do a couple more down here. I forgot to take care of my fin. I'm going to go ahead and put a dividing line right down the center of him there. And let's see. How do the panels go together? That's the question your audience is going to want to know, right? So we grab a little bit of that there. Nope, again, that's a little too thick. There we go. Working it. There we go. A little bit there. And a little bit here. All right. Look at that. That rocket has now completely changed the game there. We're going to go ahead and drop a little bit more right along this area here because I want this thing to look quasi-real. And I say quasi because it's a rocket ship after all. And then I'm going to make one subtle adjustment here. I'm going to go back into my layer. I'm going to go back to my base rocket. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. I'm going to grab my light airbrush, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that, raise that. There we go. All right, I just wanted to kind of augment that a little bit more. Now, I'm back in my lining layer. Check this out. Okay, so once I get this, we've still got our brush selected. I'm still in my inking. I'm working with my ink bleed. I'm going to go ahead and crank this down even a little bit further. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some rivets down inside this bad boy just like that. Now, not too many, right? You don't want it to make a pattern because then you're then obligated and the eye's just going to pull to whatever the hell they're looking at. But you want to make sure that you got your rivets in the right spot. Somewhere. All right. Enough so that the eye understands that it just didn't come into existence. Now we're going to come up here and we're going to make sure we got this. And we're just going to put a little dot on each one. Just enough to add a little bit of interest. All right, looking good. Now, I see one more thing I really want to do. With this layer selected, what we're calling the texture layer here, so the screen layer, I want to go ahead and blow this bad boy out, and I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to come over to my spray paints. I'm going to grab my flicks brush. I'm going to go ahead and drop my size down a little bit. And now, you want to take this slow, because if it looks like garbage, you don't want to commit to it. And with that screen technique, it really does kind of hit up the rocket a little bit in some different areas to give it some nice texture. All right. And I said I was done, but I lied. Okay, one more right about here. Let's grab the soft airbrush. Okay, now I think we're in pretty good shape there. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to deselect it. Looks like a pretty good rocket. We're going to come down here now, and I'm going to grab my hard brush. I'm going to then crank down the size a little bit. And now this is one of these areas where you want to take it slow. I'm going to make it my eraser. And now I'm going to trim away. Now make sure you're on your base rocket. Now you see how I'm just brushing the edge. If you mess this part up, bad things happen. Now see how I'm manipulating my image over so that I can get it where I want it? I've got a little bit of a hiccup here. So I'm going to shave that off just a little bit. Shave that down just a little bit, and I'm keeping my strokes fairly consistent. All right, so good deal. Now, in order to wrap this thing up and in order to get it onto the background, let's do this. Go over to your layers, swipe every one of these layers, and then you see this triple line? Let's group them together. And now, good naming structure, let's call this rocket. And we're done with this part. So let's go ahead and cut the video here, folks, and then we're going to get you on to the next lesson. We've been going now for about 30 minutes. I promised you this in under an hour. Let's get it done.